Got
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And you're a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey,
I am.
and you've testified before this board a number of times.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Graham.
Hi, hello. We're here tonight for block 30702, lot 16, more commonly known as 52 West River Styx Road. It's located in the R1 residential district. The property has frontage along West River Styx Road to the east, River Styx to the west, and the residential properties to the north and south. The property is irregularly shaped, and this is our plan that we prepared entitled Soil Erosion Sediment Control and NJDEP permitting plan for the Sabetti residence. It's dated 2/24/22 and then was last revised 3/4/24. So our office was engaged after the initial submission to respond to Mr. Rushkey's initial letter. So that's why we prepared this plan. And then again, the property is very irregularly shaped and really consists of three different sections. Out by the road, there's a 25 by 30 foot wide area. Then there's a 5 foot wide by 120 foot connector. And then down by the lake, it's 25 feet wide and 66 feet deep. The area of the lot is 3,983 square feet or 0.09 acres. Site's currently developed with an asphalt parking area near the road, a paved asphalt walkway connecting the roadway area to the dwelling, and excuse me, an existing dwelling, concrete steps, and bulkhead, and the remnants of a former deck structure. And then there's a small shed located on the property as well. The property is served by an existing connection to the municipal sewer system, and the applicant proposes to construct a new well out by the road to provide water for the property. The property generally slopes from east to west or from the road to the lake. Elevation 972 out at the road to elevation 968 at the start of the strip. Then it goes down to 950 at the end of the connector. And then from there works its way down to the lake elevation or the bulkhead, which is at elevation 924. The first floor of the existing structures at 832.16 or about 8 feet above the bulkhead. And then there was a boat garage underneath the first floor of the structure. The applicant's proposing to construct the existing dwelling, create a two-story dwelling over the boat space with a deck on the top of the structure. The new structure will be aligned to be parallel with the sidelines. And there are a number of variances or non-conformities associated with the lot, and they were enumerated quite well, I think, in Mr. Rushkey's report of May 10th, 2022. There are 13 of them. I can go through them if you want, Mr. Bill, Mr. Hagerty.
What, if any, conditions would be non-conformity or?
So there's the lot area, 15,000 square feet is required. The lot is only 3,983 square feet. Lot width, 120 feet is required. The lot is 7 feet wide at its narrowest point, 40 feet off from the setback. The side yard setbacks for the shed, 4 feet required. It's only got 1.18. Lot coverage, 35% is allowable. Currently, it's at 60%. And the distance from the lake, it's 50 feet, and we are at 0 feet. The retaining wall setback from a property line is 5 feet required, and currently it's at 0 feet. With respect to the principal structure, side yard setback, 10 feet is required on either side, or 20 feet total. Currently, we have 0 feet and 4 feet and 4 feet total. The rear yard setback, 20 feet is required. We have 0 feet. Extension into the waterway, 15% allowed. It's at 11% today. We're going to be at 17.1% when we're done. I'm not going to talk about the docks because we're limiting it. If I understood the direction earlier, it was just for the principal structure. Then most of the other variances that were listed were specific to a boathouse. Then the last one, non-conforming lot footprint, 20% is allowed. We're at 16.2, and then we're going to be at 26.8 when we're done. So the unique shape of the property really there are almost no portions of the property which meet your zoning code.
So the only nonconformity that would be exacerbated would be the minimum side yard setback for the vertical.
Yes, that's right.
Construction, is that right?
That's, as I understand it, yep.
And so lot coverage would be somewhat decreased.
Decreased, right.
60 to 57.6.
And that's just removing some of the bulkhead and some walkways.
And also the extension of the waterway slightly decreased.
Yeah.
The side yard actually is right on the property.
It's right on
line
the
now,
property
so
line,
we
yep.
could give it a little bit of a setback.
And then with respect to the property, it is on Lake Apacon. It's within the riparian zone of Lake Apacon. It is therefore under the rules of the NJDEP. But all of the activities that are proposed can either be done under a permit by rule number 10 for general construction activities outside the flood hazard area, or a general permit, permit by rule number 12 for the expansion of the dwelling. The property, again, we were engaged to address Mr. Rushke's report, and some of that had to do with providing some soil erosion sediment control measures, specifically silt fence around the perimeter of the work area to protect the lake from any silt runoff. That's the biggest one here. That's the end of my testimony. If there's any questions from the board, if I didn't answer something that you have.
I think Mr. Smith has some
I have a
questions.
question.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I'm not gonna choke.
Mr. Graham, I'm having trouble reading the site plan. Is any of the existing structure over the property line?
No, it's 0 foot to the property line as per the survey, which was performed, I believe, by Lakeland Surveying.
Okay, so Lakeland says that the existing structure is not over the property line and you're proposing nothing over the property line?
That's correct, sir.
No further questions.
Well, you're proposing actually to set it back a
Well,
bit.
but not to go over the,
Yeah,
that,
but how much setback? Right now, it's right on the property line and then you'd achieve.
Yeah,
side yard setbacks.
By council, it's gonna be 1.33 feet on one side of the property, and then which is the closest to the. Well, I'm gonna rephrase, the 0 foot is going to be increased by to 1.33 feet from the property line on the left side by rotating the structure, which Mr.
right.
Bias can explain
the-
further in his
The
testimony.
site plan was prepared by Stephen Bias, so
Okay.
those numbers are based off of his plan.
So you're planning to remove the entire structure then? To achieve
rebuild?
that, to achieve that?
I'm going to allow Mr. Bias to explain further as to the
Okay.
technical elements, but the existing foundation will remain and existing elements will continue to remain, of
Okay.
course.
Because it says here on the survey that the house is on the line. I don't know how you're gonna get that off of the line. I mean, is that
Especially
what your
with the
testimony is?
foundation.
You're gonna be 1.3 off of the line now?
The ultimate structure will be 1.3 off the line, which was the same testimony before this board in July of 22. The plan remains the same. And I defer to Mr. Bias to further explanation. Again, it's a land use meeting, not so much a construction meeting. So the means and methods really are not something I'm qualified to discuss as an attorney.
Fair enough. Okay, so you're looking for 13 variances here.
There are 13 variances were enumerated in Mr. Rushke's report. Are the boathouse ones not,
No, I think we exclude the.
right? So
boathouse.
I would say
Variances,
then it's 7,
I believe by council,
9,
I can give you the exact count based upon.
11, 12, 4 of them, I think it's 9.
We're at 6 variances, Chairman. Based upon the prior resolutions, prior court orders, items that have been addressed before this board already.
Any, go ahead, Walt.
Yeah, you said something about lakefront property doesn't guarantee lakefront view. What do you mean?
I'm the attorney, I'm not subject to questioning here, I'm not a witness.
That means you don't own the view. What you got straight out in front of your house is yours.
So in
To the
other
left
words,
and the right
this
is,
construction is going to obscure someone else's view.
yeah,
Where's the channel?
okay. Any other questions, Mr. Graham?
But real quick, if I may,
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Graham, you previously testified this is one of the most, if not the most unique property you've worked on. Does that statement still hold true
Oh,
2
yes,
years later?
the shape of the property is very unique, it's very unique to see two parcels connected by a very narrow section. This is a very different piece of property.
And the different nature of the property requires some leniency when considering all the calculations presented in the Wacomico zoning code.
I think the shape of the property absolutely does not allow it to meet all of the requirements of the zoning code.
Thank you.
Okay, and what was the total sum of the lot was 3,900 square feet?
3986, I believe, was the number. Yeah, 3983.
And what was the proposed, square footage of the new
building. I'll let Mr. Byers,
Okay.
that was, the site plan again was his plan and his calculations.
Okay, no other further questions?
I was wondering about the runoff from the house, you know, how is that being captured from the roof?
The roof gutters and it'll discharge right at grade. This property cannot, especially where the house is, can't put dry wells in. There's no room. And two, we're right on the water, so there wouldn't be sufficient separation from the groundwater or water elevation to the bottom of whatever system you use to infiltrate it. So they're going to discharge that grade.
By council, as will be explained by Mr. Bice later, we'll have rain wells on the property to gather runoff from the gutters, which will be supplemented into the gardening and the property that'll be there.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Brian.
I'd like to call the architect, Steve Bice.
So Bill, we gotta keep that A2, that.
Is that a sheet that we have?
That was
in
a
our
plan
plans?
that was submitted to the board. There were no alterations to it.
Okay. And that's,
It's in the record, yes.
it's part of the application,
Yes, sir.
so, yeah, we received that with the
Okay.
application, so, okay.
I'm gonna leave this one on the side. just so they don't hold it. Here's
Mr. Bias, I'm sorry. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And you are a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey,
Yes, sir.
and you've testified before this board a number of times. if I recall.
Good evening, Mr. Bias. Mr. Bias, you're showing us sheet EC1. Is this a sheet that you prepared?
Yes. And the existing conditions.
What are the existing conditions of the home situated at 52 West River Sticks?
So this drawing has a few different views on there, primarily we have floor plans and there's some elevations. Probably best to start with the ground floor plan. This is the plan that's right at the base, right by the concrete bulkhead, at the lowest portion of the property. So you can see it's basically a 16 by 44 rectangle. There's a small boat slip in here that wouldn't be big enough for any of today's watercraft, probably more like a personal sized watercraft for that area. There's some storage, there's a utility room that services the upstairs, and then there's a crawl space. So this is a stone and concrete foundation that sits into the hill. It's got some interesting aspects to it. When you get up here, you can see this is a wood shake section here right on the bulkhead, then it sticks into the hill here where we have stone and concrete. And then there's another platform here that's concrete, then there's some steps, then there's a concrete platform here, then there's a wood frame platform up here. So there's a collage of different levels and constructions that run from the level part of the property right down to the concrete deck and bulkhead area. The steps are accurate. You can see these are the real steps. And there's concrete and stone steps that descend between landings and concrete platforms. And then you would access the existing structure right at that level there. So You're coming down 16 steps at least, plus another set of landings. It's hard to walk down. They're not consistent. It's very unsafe. But it was doable. It was done at one time. And then you have the main floor of the existing residence here, about 9 feet above the concrete platform. So that's essentially the landscape of the existing structure. What you'll see is the main floor has a bedroom to the front, a living room in the middle. We have a small bedroom in the middle, another bedroom, and then a small kitchen and bath area that's tucked into the hill. The staircase runs along the right side, or I guess as you're looking at the house, you know, like the left side of the property. So those staircase runs along here on that side.
And now, Mr. Bias, we're proposing a second-story addition to this home, correct?
That's correct.
And that second-story addition, if you could flip to your, I believe it's your A2.
And these plans were all submitted to the board. This is what.
Yes, sir. Just one thing to note, you had a question about the foundation, right? So this corner of the foundation, although it's drawn diagonally correct with my drawing, it's slightly rotated on the site plan. So the front end, the lake side is 1 feet 4 off the property line. This back corner touches the property line. So what we're proposing to do is maintain the existing stone foundation and rotate the top, rotate the upper stories, because that'll be new construction. Make that consistent so that we're 1 4 off the property line along the length of the building.
So that being said, then the home is still going, the foundation is still going to be on the property line.
It's not over, but it touches.
It touches it, right? So it's not going, you're not going to meet that 1.3 feet setback.
Well,
The foundation is part of the bulkhead. It's something that cannot be changed. It's an element that's been there forever. So what we're looking at here is the home structure itself. That bulkhead is not livable space. That's accessory for storage, and there's no application for that to be livable space today. When we were before this board in 2022 on 2 applications, the concern was, what about the physical structure of the house touching the line? That was the March 22 meeting. In light of the comments of the board, Mr. Bias and the applicant moved the physical structure onto the meatier portion of the foundation as described by Mr. Bias, to make that distance on the property line. The bulkhead is the bulkhead is the bulkhead. It's not something that could be changed, and it's not something that is usable, livable space, and has no bearing on the property line whatsoever.
Well, that's not really a bulkhead. That is the foundation of the house.
Exactly.
The house sits on that wall.
Part of the bulkhead.
I don't see, the bulkhead is all the way down by the water. This is way uphill from the bulkhead. The bulkhead is
No, it
where the
is not.
water meets the.
It's actually, you can see right here, it's this back corner,
I mean, I was there today, so I don't know how you can
Great.
tell me that it's.
and it's made of stone and concrete.
So
Let me, if I may amend, I was following Mr. Bias's pointing over here on the bulkhead. If you're talking about the other corner, that's my misunderstanding of the question.
Well, that's what we're talking about up there. That part of the foundation is on the property line. So you're telling me you're moving it. You're not moving it. That foundation is gonna stay right where it is, correct?
If
The
I may
foundation-
pull up the, let me
But
pull,
the- But the wood framing or the floor above it is gonna, we told Mr. Duncan back when we had this meeting, you know, on Zoom, that we could rotate the top rectangle.
But then you'll be off the foundation, so how could you
the
possibly? do
foundation's wide enough to accommodate the
It's- it's
rotation of the
pretty thick. It's a
structure.
big, thick
that? That
concrete.
means you're not knowing the footprint of the second floor then.
No, well,
If you're twisting it and you're not on your
I'll
foundation.
get into how we're gonna design it. It's not, it's really simple. Just taking one rectangle, rotating it so it's proper to the front.
Which brings it off the foundation.
Again, this is not a construction meeting. This is a land use meeting, so means and methods.
Yes.
the
Means-
reality is the foundation is still going to be on the property line, correct?
It's, yes.
Okay, all right, thank
That's
you.
it, that's the bottom line.
All right.
Okay, that's all.
We could do, you know,
We can't,
Oh, that's it.
don't tell me it's one thing and it's not. You know what I'm saying?
Just so we understand.
We're speaking of the actual structure. We're talking about pre-existing.
Well, that is the
non-conform-
structure, is it not the structure?
When we were last before this board in 2022, and Mr. Ray, I know you were present at both meetings, the
Yes.
concern was the side of the house being on the property line, not a concern about the foundation. Anything about the foundation being near the property line is a pre-existing nonconformity that is not being exacerbated or changed in any
I
way.
want to correct that. I was at that meeting as well, okay? And it wasn't just about the addition to the home itself. It was about the entire home,
No.
including the foundation when
No.
we discussed that.
Well, unfortunately,
do,
there was
but-
no review of the audio before the
No,
meeting this
sure.
evening. And I'll allow Mr. Bias to explain further, again, why I feel this should be a continued application and not a new application.
There may have been some misunderstanding on that, but from my point of view, that was never we were always rotating just the upper portion.
But yes, I understand that that's what you're talking about, but the reality is that the foundation is still going to be on the property line, and that is the point, okay?
Yeah.
Regardless of what anybody was thinking at that meeting, the foundation is going to be on the property line, correct? So we're not relieving that side yard setback by 1.33 feet,
Well, with our new construction, we are. Right, all we tried
but
to
not
do,
with the existing.
all we tried to do with this was say, yeah, we can make that corner better.
Right.
I could make it better by rotating that rectangle to be consistent with the 1'4" in the front. That's what we said back then, and that's really what the whole design was based on. The foundation was staying even on A2, which is our proposed first floor and ground floor plan. You can see that, there's a line on there that shows that the offset that we're proposing to take it down.
No, I
if I may-
understand
if
that.
I
It's
may-
just the inference that we were okay with it back at that meeting, and I will tell you, I can't
Well,
speak
yeah.
for the rest of the board members, but I'm talking about myself, right? That was not the case.
Yeah, there's a lot discussed. I think we're just, my understanding was that we're just rotating the top and the bottom.
We get it now, we
And
understand.
we're here tonight for pros and cons, and what we're doing is we're making a pro by moving the structure to create that distance from the property line that was requested from the physical structure. Any cons about the existing foundation are pre-existing non-conforming and do not impact the neighborhood at large, because if we refer to, if you give me A1, Steve, if you just give me A1. If you could throw on the board, yeah. And Mr. Flynn will expand upon this momentarily. We're going to turn to A1, which is before the board. The subject corner that everybody is so concerned about is approximately 30 feet away from the next adjacent structure, which is an ADU, a boathouse with the dwelling overhang. It's not near the primary residence, so there's no negative impact to the neighboring property, and there's no negative impact to the neighboring property on the right either. So there is no con here by creating the pro of creating the distance between that ADU, that accessory dwelling boathouse from the neighbor, to the new proposed structure.
What was the pro again? So
The pro is creating distance between the neighboring property line. There was concerns about the distance of 0 feet, so we're creating a pro by moving the structure, the usable space structure away from the property line.
Mr. Bias,
It's substantially below grade as
Yeah.
well, that whole corner.
that foundation area is below grade.
That corner is substantial.
well, it's at grade.
It's below grade. Grade is at street level
Well,
in
I
this
mean, if you
area.
wanna, I mean, if you go by if you go to the back corner of that house, it's at grade. I mean, it's
Yeah.
at the grade in that,
Here, let me show you. So this is the side that we're talking about here?
Yeah.
right? This is where that corner is back here.
And the black line representing the grade.
And this is the grade along that side.
well, where you come up to that back corner is, I mean, it's at grade. It's not like it's below the grade.
It is the left side of the property as shown on A1, that subject corner is below the grade. The right side that you may be talking about that's exposed is a different issue, but the subject corner goes into the dirt, into the mountain, as Steve called it, and is below the grade.
That's right. And it's probably part of the neighbor's landscaping in this corner on this side, so it'd be, of course, you can really do anything. Of course, you can reconstruct it, but it would do more harm than good by interfering with that existing foundation. So that's why we chose just to take what we can, the area that we can, and just slightly rotate that.
And how much of the house would be removed to replace?
So at this point in time, we're taking everything above the foundation off,
Okay,
right? Because that, along that property line as well, you'll see, I forget which one we're on here, but let me get back to this one here. That side is going to require us to be fire rated because it's along the property line. So this wall along this side, the subject side, this is the existing foundation. This side is going to be a fire rated construction. We're within 5 feet of the property line, you have to make it fire rated. You could do that with wood framing and chipboard, you could do, there's a variety of ways of doing that, so that's, so they'll be fire rated, which it's not now.
So you're more, you're basically within a foot of the property line for the whole building, right?
Just beyond it, 1.33 feet, I believe is
At the lake.
is the
At the
calculation.
front, yeah. Okay. So to answer the gentleman's question with regard to the structure, as we rotate this building, we're still gonna have enough bearing on the back side to handle this side of our wall and floor load. And we're proposing to cantilever approximately 1.5 feet on the opposite side of the foundation. So
And Mr. Bias very quickly brought up another pro is the new construction of fire rating, something that doesn't exist on the current structure that's there. So again, another pro, safety of the neighborhood. Which again, I'll defer to Mr. Flynn as we get there. So Steve, you showed us the first and second floor.
So just to get back into that, what we're proposing to build right above the existing foundation, which is currently 16.3 by 44. We're going to be 18 by the 44 plus some in the back. It's gonna cantilever over the right side where the staircase is. Believe it or not, we're proposing a minimal impact here. This would be a steel and concrete staircase supported on pilings, on small columns, if you will, that goes over the existing landscape. Cleans it up because it'll be, according to code, the proper rise and run for the new stairs. And so it's a similar geometry on the first floor and the ground floor. One thing we're really doing is we're displacing that canopy and the concrete landings with a new staircase. And at the upper grade, at the highest point, we'll have a foyer and a small deck area around an entry deck.
Now, Steve, if you could just give me the side profile, please. I'd like to speak to you about that foyer. I believe it's your A4. Thank you, Steve. I believe the side profile foyer that we're speaking about is the top right corner, that large rectangle here, we can call it east elevation.
Yes.
So now that foyer is part of the second floor and it brings the entry to this home to the grade of the 5-foot walkway. Is that correct? Or close to
Yes,
to the 5-foot walkway?
So yes, so you'll see this is the south, this is the street elevation. And really, that's just we have an entry landing, an entry porch here, a double door. That takes us into let's call it a tower, if you will. We descend a half level. That brings us to the uppermost floor. But that sliver between the buildings, that's our staircase. We're using that to split the half levels from the uppermost grade right down to the level of the pool house.
The primary level.
Primary level.
So that foyer, as we're calling it on the drawing, allows for better access to the structure. And that foyer is a necessary element of the second floor.
It allows us to get into the building at a consistent grade at the top here, which is generally consistent with the 5-foot sidewalk in the existing backyard. It's roughly at the level of where the stairs start. We're just gonna enter our building there as opposed to going down the staircase, which we could have inclement weather. It could be snow and ice, etc. This allows us to get into the dwelling, descend to the levels as we need it, except for the boathouse level.
Which
We don't have
the
any-
storage
we don't have-
level,
yes,
storage level.
There's no interior access to that level. That's only outside.
What does your roof line extend from the handrails?
Excuse me?
Your roof line, how far does it extend from the handrails?
I think he means from the, what is the total height of the structure on the lakeside? From the bulkhead to the top of your construction?
So we have roughly 9 feet to the top plate or the top of the foundation. Then we have a foot, then we have 10 feet, then a foot, 10 feet, and then a foot.
I'll total it up.
So
What is it?
31 feet. And then we have a 3-foot railing around the top.
And then from your railing, from the top of your railing to the peak of that other structure,
This
what
is
area?
Probably 5 feet.
Pursuant to
So that's
the,
only, so to answer your question, from the upper grade, it's 13.3. It's only 13'3".
there's no height variance before this board tonight, as none is required pursuant to the formula promulgated by this board. When using the formula for the Borough of Hopatcong, the height is 25 feet, 8 inches, which is under the 35 feet. We're bound by the formula promulgated by this board.
We tried to use a geometry and a shape that would allow us to use a flat roof. It's only 18 feet wide. It's a flat roof, slightly pitched, to minimize any of that, we could gain a whole nother volume up here if we used a gable roof. But we chose not to do that. We chose to go with a flat roof, try to keep it as low as we possibly could.
And that flat roof, Steve, benefits the community as opposed to a gable, correct? As it doesn't obstruct views?
Well, it's, if we
As
had a
opposed to
gable
a
on here, we would be blocking more than if we did.
So that's gonna be a usable patio, is that what what is it? What is that gonna be?
Let me, if I could defer to the drawing real quickly to give you the proper answer. Maybe Steve has that on his. I defer to Steve as well.
It's a flat roof, it'll
Rooftop
be
patio.
accessible,
The
and it's
whole thing
called a
is gonna
roof
be-
garden. Could be.
Called a roof garden. That goes before it's when somebody on this board mentioned about gutters and runoff. That's for water conservation as well, place to gather the rainwater and use for gardening purposes.
Well, what is the surface then going to be on that roof level?
Typically, like, well, there's a variety of ways we could do this. We could use a rubber membrane and cover it with like a decking. It could be a fiberglass. We haven't gotten to that level yet. We just know it's gonna be flat, slightly pitched. We're gonna collect the water and distribute.
But you propose to have that functional, so I'm envisioning deck chairs up there or something like that. You envision that to have
Well,
a.
but nothing would be higher than the 3-foot rail. So it's
Understood,
like anybody
understood. I'm
else.
just trying to understand what it is.
Could be, that's up to.
All right.
Obviously, it'd be a great vantage
So
point.
if you put a gabled roof on there at like a 4 or 5 pitch, it wouldn't be much higher than that railing, correct?
It'd be higher.
Not much.
I don't know how much higher.
I mean, how wide's the structure?
18 feet.
So, and it's not gonna be much higher than that top of that railing.
But then you'd have a roof
Yeah,
overhang
well,
over them.
well, you have an overhang, but then you don't have the rooftop patio.
Yeah,
you know,
I
you know.
understand, but you've only got 1.5 feet.
Which would defeat the purpose that we're seeking earlier of creating that distance from the property line.
1.3 of any kind of a roof overhang, you're gonna be really.
We just
You tell
thought it was
me
a
what
minimal
that's
impact,
gonna
it's a
be.
flat roof with a glass or cable railing around it. It's only 13 feet from the back rail. It's 31 feet from the existing concrete patio, well below your height limitations.
Another pro to outweigh a potential con when comparing different types of roofs.
Concrete stairs and steps, is that calculated in the impervious coverage calculation?
Yep.
Where was the improvement coming from?
Well, below, you were out there, right? You saw it today? Do you remember seeing?
I wasn't out there today, but I've been out there.
All right, but so then you're familiar with the various, there's 3 or 4 different concrete patios
Right.
of no, of no use. They're grown over, they're cracked. So we're removing that, cleaning that, making it safe, allow better drainage on the site, and then for the occupants, we'll have a brand new staircase that they could use and safely go from uppermost level to the landings to the lowest level.
So, yeah, there were several concrete structures that were there. They're all coming out?
The ones affected by the structure will be, of course, we're taking them out.
Right.
And then any adjacent overruns will be taken out of there. I mean, most of them are beat up and banged up anyway along the walls. So,
If we
trying to
could go to the EC1, I believe it's best put, there's an existing deck concrete area that's being removed. Which
That was
is
at the top. of-
at the very top when you get to the bottom of the walkway, correct?
Yes, I mean, that's essentially.
That's okay, Steve, we can move forward.
And the water runoff, and you said would be accommodated with the roof structure. Where would it end up? Where's the water going?
On the A4, Steve, we'll go back to A4 real quick about water runoff. I believe we discussed previously, you'd be able to gather rainwater on the roof garden as described, and we'd be able to put leaders into rain wells to be able to gather water and use for additional gardening purposes.
Correct.
And those are something that would be laid out when you're handling
Yeah,
a
the
gutter
only
system.
drainage you would be worried about is from the top level. And then we'd be able to bring wherever we wanted to in the back. The only area we have where the shed is, it's the only place there's grass on the whole property, so I'm sure we'll be able to do something in that.
And we'd be able to gather rainwater as well to use for purposes.
You don't have a design for that, meaning how much rainwater can you collect? What kind of storm will that actually collect the rainwater from? I mean, impervious coverage on the lake, runoff into the lake are all very important considerations.
Well, the building is only 1,000 square feet, so it's much less than any of the adjacent rooms, right? So I believe you could probably, defer to the engineer. I wouldn't try to be an engineer on that, but 1,000-gallon seepage tank might be able to do that, but we could give you the calculations on that.
But you're really not increasing the water runoff because you're not you're decreasing impervious coverage.
Yeah.
So the condition that would result from this construction would be an improvement
Improved.
compared to what's there now.
It really is. I mean, if you've been to the site, you can see that it's just, we're doing our best to take all of that up and control it. Once you can control the water that you have on the site, then you have a much, then it's friendlier to your neighbors, friendlier to the lake, etc.
John, you have any input on the runoff?
The site's so small, so it's not like.
I don't know where you can put it. I mean, there's no place to put it.
Yeah, even if it just, we're more concerned that, at least I would be more concerned that they're not dumping it on the neighbor and concentrating on the neighbor and creating a nuisance for the neighbor. So as long as it's being controlled and not discharging to the neighbor, discharging in the lake, it's such a small lot, you're not concerned about attenuation or decreases. It's nothing.
I think the neighbor is the Lake Blackhawk.
Yeah, it's not gonna, raise the lake, so.
That's where it's going.
Steve, I have nothing further for you. I believe we're ready and all set, and then,
I do have another question regarding that. I think we referred to it a while back, not today, but prior meetings, the entry foyer, if you will. Just from my eyes, looking at that, you say there's no way to put that on the same level, right? Because to me, that's it's a story and a half that we're adding, understanding the fact that the extra half story isn't going the entire length of the building, but there was no way to accommodate entry into the home in a manner so that you don't have that additional half story there.
I know we're not supposed to refer to prior meetings, and I know we have a new mix of old and new members here. I believe what you may be referring to is that in a prior application, the first drawing, we had sought a mechanical room at that level, which increased the height. So we brought the mechanical to the bottom portion of the house to reduce the height of the structure, which again, no height variance has ever been before this board.
No, I understand that, but
We wanted to enter from the upper grade, and that's the only way to do it. I mean, if this is the ceiling of the second floor, it would be right here, right?
Mhm.
So that's like 7 feet. We thought it was very minimal, very low impact, just to get a door to get us into an enclosure, and then our stairs, go lateral to that, so,
Then you've got a couple of stairs down from the foyer into the level then. When you enter the foyer,
yes.
you've got a few steps to go down.
Yeah.
Interior.
Interior steps, yes.
Is this a continued application or a new application?
It's a hybrid
I think
application.
he wants to be very careful because I think we should talk about this as a new, otherwise, we're gonna take this back to all the members. They're gonna listen to the audio tapes before. I'm hoping that the board members have enough information from this application as presented tonight to rule on the application presented tonight, rather than subjecting members to try to listen to audio tapes of prior meetings, which never works all that effectively because you don't have the exhibits in front of you.
I was only asking because I think you had mentioned that you felt this was more of a continued application. So,
It's legal.
so referring back to prior meetings would be appropriate in a continued application.
I would think so too. There was a lot of testimony on this application.
I would like the board, if the board feels comfortable tonight, having heard tonight's presentation and determining tonight's.
And having some time to contemplate as we've been talking here this evening, I'm going to agree with Mr. Haggerty and withdraw my earlier objection because we're here today for C2, pros and cons. And we were so focused on hardship last time. I don't think we all actually talk about pros and cons in the last meeting. And as a matter of fact, Judge Minkowitz said we did it. So who are we to contradict the judge? I'm going to agree with Bill and we'll call it a new application.
Okay.
Mr. Bias, how do you get into that rooftop deck from that foyer area?
You gotta go up.
Huh? I mean, I'm a little.
You got steps going up.
Stairs right there.
Those are exterior
They're
steps.
so small, you
they're
couldn't even see
exterior.
it. They're right on the side of the foyer. That's why the half levels work for us, right? We're coming to the foyer, we're a half level above the second floor.
On the outside.
So we go down, I think, 9 risers to get to the floor below. Right, here, we can go 9 risers to get to the roof level.
That comes off the balcony, correct?
From the outside,
Yeah.
yes. Porch, balcony, whatever. term
It's a
you
very
prefer.
simple, we tried to keep this as simple and straightforward as possible, just a double door entry to a small landing down. And then when you're outside, you can go up that half level.
No
to get to the
interior
roof.
entry to the
No
roof.
interior entry to the roof.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bias.
I do have a question. What is the reason you're extending further into the lake? Is that the deck?
There is no further extension.
So I thought you
The
stated
balcony,
that
the balcony extends. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
balcony is on
extending
the-
further.
Everything, excuse me.
The square
balcony.
footage is going further into the lake.
Into the land, not into the lake.
Oh, I heard it go the other way, that you're extending further into the water.
No, we have a.
Oh, wrong balcony. I'm focusing on the balcony that Mr. Taylor mentioned before. My apologies. Those balconies. Steve, I defer to you.
Yeah, we have, each level has a small balcony, 5 feet by 18 feet. That goes beyond the face of the lakeside of the house.
Is that to rest while you're climbing all these stairs?
It might
It's
have
an
to-
awful lot of stairs.
it sure is.
It's a unique property, and
I
if you
know,
see
I
the
was
stairs,
there. I almost broke my neck going
those,
down there.
those stairs are tricky now. We're trying to make those stairs better with this application, as I'm sure you could imagine from what we're saying here.
Yeah, that's a nice, we just thought that as an opportunity to enjoy some of that lakefront right there.
Bill,
Mr. Haggerty,
Bill,
is the dock part of this application?
What's
Is the dock part of this
No,
application?
no, I'll defer to the attorney. My understanding is the presentation is that the dock surface was replaced, not expanded in any way. If that's the case, I thought about this and I think sort of in terms of a roof. You know, you can replace a roof without coming in for a zoning variance unless you expand it out and add to it and extend the eaves, but a dock surface, we don't make everybody that puts a new surface on a dock come in. If we did, we're busy more now, we'd be that much busier, frankly.
do we have an old drawing or an old survey showing that the dock that was there before, what's there now?
I'm not sure there's, yeah.
And you're-
Going through the file, not this last week, but going through the file recently, a while back. There were some notices for stop because there was dock work being done and the pictures were vintage, probably the 70s or 80s. I would say that dock, that portion of the dock may not have been legal back at that point in time, because there were several police stop work, permits, unique permits. And then I would also be a little concerned with our restoration ordinance where, that's more than partial destruction.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no zoning permit, there were no building permits for that dock.
Yeah, I think if the dock were legal, or preceded the zoning ordinance where you replace a top on a dock, I don't see somebody, even though you could say that's what's partial destruction, but if the supporting structure stays and you replace a top on a dock, I don't think there's any intent to make somebody come in for a variance approval to do that as long as it's the same.
When I looked at the property prior, there was no dock there. There was some metal supports, if I recall correctly, but there was.
Yeah, there's 2 pillars out there and there was no dock.
Right.
So I don't know if the dock increased from what it was. We don't know.
What's the relationship of the dimension of the dock to the pillars?
It's wider. I mean, if you compare the pilings, it were 2 pilings, and of course, via the site plan, it showed 2 pilings and probably 2 H-beams or I-beams or something, I guess, that were rolling out. But the dock area, I believe, is wider than
the pilings,
what that was. And there's no way of knowing what was there because it's probably been 30 or 40 years since there was a dock there.
Now, though, you're saying.
It's brand new.
Yeah, it's all done.
supported by the pilings that historically.
Truthfully, when I was down there more recently, I did not duck under to look.
Yeah.
So and the lake had already come up.
Sure.
So I couldn't say with any conviction.
If you like, the applicant could shed some light quickly. If I could bring him back up, Bill, you still under oath?
Yes, absolutely.
I took it upon myself to repair the dock during the 5-year drain down. Mr. Donegan said that the width was extended. The width goes 16 inches past the existing pilings on each end, so it gives you room to bolt into the existing pilings. And you have double 2x10s on each side, and you got 3 2x10s horizontal to the lake. It's all 2x10 construction and 2x6 decking. If anything, we lowered the length of the dock. So the dock now goes out 19 feet, 2 inches. And when we were before this board 2 prior times, we were looking for 28 feet, 29 feet. We agreed on 24 feet. But the whole idea is we spend so much time on talking about a dock at prior meetings. I just wanted to repair what was there and live with it. I'm gonna be living there. I have to accept the fact that the dock is 19.2. That's fine. I'll get a smaller boat. But we made the length approximately 4 feet less than what we could have. And the width is exactly 1 beam more, 16 inches on each side. So the width is exactly the same. And the reason why you know that, it lines up with the 2 corners. It lines up with the corner coming down. It lines up with the corner at the opening, at which point there was 2 pieces of steel embedded into the concrete. And that's how we anchored into that area. Instead of just nailing into concrete, we anchored into the steel that was solid at that point. So the width, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I can stand before you testifying the width is the same and the length was reduced.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Any other questions of the architect?
This time we're gonna call professional planner Matt Flynn.
I don't.
Okay, I'll throw it.
I was gonna reference a couple of those.
Whatever you need, I'll throw it.
Mr. Flynn, please raise your right hand. Do you swear testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Could you give the board the benefit of your background?
Sure. My education comes from Rutgers University. I have my master's degree in planning and public policy. I have my professional planner's license and my AICP license, which is the national licensure for planners. This is my first time before this board, but I have testified before about 100 boards like this across the state. Both my licenses are in good standing.
You're familiar with this application of the property?
I am. Ours.
Jump right in, Matt.
Sure. At this point, I see that the board has my my planning report that was issued. Basically, just at a high level off the bat, like was mentioned, this isn't substantially undersized property. This is less than 4,000 square feet at 3,983 square feet. The minimum required lot area in the zone is 15,000 square feet. So here we're sitting at about 26% of what's allowed. This makes this an extremely challenging property, and I understand that this puts the board in a somewhat uncomfortable position. But at this point, we can only make the situation as best as we can. The existing dwelling on the property, if I can put up the existing floor plan. And if we look on the planner's report that the board has in front of them on page 4, I have a little arrow pointing at what the existing dwelling looks like from the lake at this point. Just to put this into perspective, this is a approximately 732 square foot home, which is extremely small for a single family home. And just to put that into perspective, that's actually less than 5 9x18 parking spaces. So it's a very small home, and basically what that results in is a very awkward interior living arrangement. I would liken it basically to a railroad apartment style dwelling. If we look at Exhibit A, what we on A2?
Bill, did we mark Bias's drawings as exhibits?
No, because they were, no, this would be A2.
Right, so Exhibit A2, like I said, I would liken it to sort of like a railroad apartment type development, where you would have to walk through rooms to get to another room. The living room, for example, is between 2 bedrooms. And obviously adding a second floor will allow the applicant and any future homeowners the ability to to spread out a little bit more and give, I think, some much needed breathing room. So we heard the list of variances at this point, and like council mentioned, we are going to go through the C2 test. It's a balancing test, so like council mentioned, we are going to look at the benefits of the application, counterbalance against any detriments. Again, the emphasis here is on balancing. Just because something is a variance doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad or that it's going to have a substantially negative impact on the neighborhood. Actually, technically, I would say that none of the variances that we're seeking this evening are a result of the proposal per se. And what I mean by that is that even though we're going up, we're not actually requesting a height variance. We're still 10 feet within the height limitation. And even though we are requesting setback variances, we're not actually getting any closer to our property lines. Again, I'm not disputing the fact that the setback variances are variances because we are going up on existing non-conforming setbacks, but I just thought that was worth noting. So just, I'll jump right in. The benefits of the application or the positive criteria. Again, we're looking at a substantially undersized home. It's not, what we're proposing is not something that's out of character with the neighborhood. We do see many other 2-3 story dwellings around. If we look at page 4 of my planner's report, on the left side of that image, we actually see a 3-story home. In terms of neighborhood compatibility, I would say that the existing dwelling is far smaller than other single family dwellings. And just to put that into perspective, that structure that we see on the right of my image is actually an ADU. It's an accessory dwelling unit. And funny enough, our single family dwelling is actually comparable in size to this ADU. I think that's two properties over.
How does
Just-
that reflect the comparison to the size of the lots of the homes you're comparing it to?
Well, that ADU sits on a property that is also developed with a single family home.
I
So
understand that, but what I'm saying is that presumably the other lots that you're comparing to are much, much larger in size than the lot that we're talking about here, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Again, we're talking about a home that's being proposed that even though we are in an undersized lot, again, it's a challenge to the applicant to provide something that is modern and in keeping with the established pattern of the neighborhood. And again, that obviously has some variances associated with it. But what's being proposed, I would say, is not anything that is obtrusive or obstructive in terms of the size that's being proposed. It's actually in keeping with the other single family homes that we see in the area. I think that also in terms of the project benefits, like I said, improved living conditions. It not only improves the value and quality of the property itself, it improves the value and quality of the area as a whole. It makes this area more desirable, having a property that is more in keeping with modern demands for housing, for single family housing. Like I said, the proposed home is modest. The height actually complies, and the impervious coverage is being reduced. Also, one of our setbacks is also being increased. If we were to look at a conforming 15,000 square foot lot, based on the building footprint requirement, you would be allowed to get a 22,250 square foot building footprint. Here, we're less than half of that. So again, even though we are looking at an undersized lot, we are proposing I'll say an undersized structure in response to that. Again, still variance conditions, but again, we're doing the best we can to provide a house that is of normal size for a single family living. Like I said, taking the building away from that left property line, decreasing impervious coverage on the site as a whole. In terms of neighborhood harmony, like I said, there are other structures, other single family dwellings nearby that have 2 stories, 3 stories. Within earshot, again, on page 4 of my report, we do see a 3 family right there. So I think all of the above promotes purposes of the municipal land use law, including purpose A, promotion of the general welfare. Again, this is a permitted single family use in a single family zone, making that single family use better, more in keeping with what people are looking for single family living. I don't think I don't think 730 square feet is really what the demand is for single family homes. Right now, again, we do have an extremely small house, which looks more like an accessory dwelling unit or a boathouse just by virtue of the size of it. And that's not what we have here. We have a single family home that's meant to be a single family home. So what we're proposing is going to bring that up to par, I think. Purpose G, variety of uses in appropriate locations. Again, going back to neighborhood compatibility. This is going to be a single family home that's not going to be larger than the other single family homes that we see in the neighborhood in terms of height or the massing. Purpose M, efficient use of land. Obviously, we're talking about an undersized lot. If we look at the shape of this lot, it kind of looks like there's a portion of the property that's missing or has been taken out right in the middle there, which is certainly creating a challenging circumstance for the applicant. We're looking at an existing home, basically on the part of the property where there's the only place for a home to go. The other, I'll say, landing towards the street would not be large enough to accommodate a home at all. This would be the only spot for it. So obviously we are requesting the setback variances that we're requesting. Purpose I, desirable visual environment. Here, I think it's important to talk about, again, if we go to page 4, or the rendering that the architect put up on the easel, there's going to be adequate light, air, open space around the proposed dwelling here. This is not a situation where we have 2 adjacent properties that have single family homes on them, and we're squeezing something into a skinny lot that's right between 2 other single family homes. Here, we actually have a substantial amount of light, air, and open space, and I think if we look at page 4 of my report, the angle actually does that a little bit more justice. I think that council said there's about 30 feet to the ADU on the right, or is that?
I gave an approximation.
Right. And so I think that these images sort of speak to themselves. It's not going to appear crammed in at all. So the flip side to that, all of that goes towards the benefits of the application, which come right from the municipal land use law. The flip side to that is the negative criteria, so no substantial detriment to the public or to the zone. If this were a normal sized property, if this were a 15,000 square foot property that had a normal shape to it, I would have a completely different opinion about this application. It just so happens that this is, again, a very challenged piece of property where we have to make the best of what we're given here. If we had the allowable 15,000 square feet, just again, to give the board some perspective, the building footprint that we would have would be 6% of that. So just in terms of comparing that with what we could get around here in the R1 zone. So you would be allowed 15% on a conforming lot. We would be less than half of that. So just from a visual perspective, what you see, you would see much larger homes in the R1 zone as of right. Like I said, again, negative criteria, no substantial detriment to the public. You're not going to have a building that's squeezed in. In terms of height, we're also going to be well below the height requirement. We're allowed to go up to 35 feet. We're at just about 25 feet, 25 feet, 8 inches. Again, that adds to the light, air, open space happening all around this proposed dwelling. The added height and the added space is not increasing population density. So in terms of negative criteria, we're not increasing population density. Again, just giving the homeowner more space, which I think is well warranted based on what he has today. The variances that we're seeking, although we're not requesting a height variance, I think that all of the variances we're seeking are mitigated by the sunken site condition. Obviously, we see the green home on the left on the exhibit on the easel and the ADU. All of these homes are sunken. As it gets down to the lake, all of these properties become lower in elevation. So I think that takes away from the impact of anything that we're seeking to do. And finally, the variances that we're seeking are all triggered by the shape of the property and the existing building. None of the variances relate to an oversized building. In the context of the neighborhood or the zoning. This is not going to stand out as an excessively large home. I understand that it's on the lake and that does put the board in an uncomfortable position, but we have to look at this as a single family home. And when we look at it that way, I really don't think it's going to stand out as anything that's too large for this type of land use. So all that being said, I think the benefits of the application here certainly outweigh any detriments. Again, it's a challenging site. We are looking for variances. It's not an ideal situation by any means, but again, I think we have to look to do what makes the most sense here. And we're talking about a single family home. Right now, that's, like I said, I think I likened it to about 5 parking spaces. It's an extremely small home, and I think that by bringing it up to par with modern living standards, it's going to be a substantial net positive. So with that, unless there's any redirect, that's pretty much my testimony.
Did you factor in that the existing home is 3 bedrooms and this would be 2?
I think that's a good point. Like I said, with population density, although bedrooms does not necessarily mean density per se, I think the board can look at that as a mitigating element.
From a planning standpoint, do you, to meet positive criteria, do you think adding another story onto a building that is 1 foot off the property line is a positive?
In this particular case, I do. Yeah, and like I said, if this were almost any other property, I would have a completely different opinion.
How do you propose to maintain that side of the building? Is there any?
This is a planner. He's not here for maintenance, repair, construction. Those questions are not before the board this evening.
All right,
No, I
well,
think
we'll have
it's a
to ask,
proper
we'll have to
question.
ask one or the other, then the architect or somebody.
Yeah.
That's a fair question.
This is a land use meeting. It's not.
No, I think it's a fair question because.
It's on the property line. So if we just want to
We're
proceed, we'll
talking
just
about
proceed.
benefits and detriments. I think that's a fair question. I don't-
We could recall a witness then. I don't believe.
Another thing, I mean, I know.
I think I can answer that question for you already. Let me just
Yeah.
give you my experience.
Just let the record. know, still under oath.
Yes.
So I may have told the board once before, I don't have a license, I'm not a licensed architect, but I've been a builder for 40+ years. So this is not my first rodeo. People ask all the time, how are you gonna build a property on a property line? How are you gonna maintain a property on a property line? Well, maybe in Sussex County or Morris County, this is not a common element. But when you go into the 5 boroughs of New York City, this is more common than you think. There's frame structures in the borough where you have less than a foot to side a building and maintain it, and it gets done. It gets done with the proper installation and the proper maintenance. The siding that's gonna go on this house is going to be there for my lifetime and someone else's lifetime. The installation, since there's no house next to it, the only thing that requires is the permission from the adjacent neighbor. So I know this board's never had this before, but when a neighbor is stubborn and doesn't want to give you access to do your side, and it's not near the house, it's just entering their property line, the court allows awarding that the builder has the right to enter that property line, provide insurance. So there's definitely ways. This is not a magic act. This is simplistic construction that maybe the board is not familiar with based on the large lot size. So I can guarantee you, again, under testimony, that this will be a piece of cake.
Now, what if the neighbor says, I don't want you?
Then
on
you
my
go
property?"
before a judge and the judge gives you access.
By council, there's plenty of case law in the state of New Jersey that requires property owners to allow adjacent property owners to enter property for maintenance and repair and construction. It may not be something that's very common, as my client stated, but the law does allow for access, reasonable access during reasonable times, reasonable accommodations, with proof of insurance, et cetera.
I'm not overly familiar with that. I'd be happy to, consider that, and if it exists, that's fine. But
I mean,
but nobody wants to go to court. Nobody
Yeah.
wants.
well, I mean, listen, this is not
Regardless,
Manhattan, so how they
Yeah.
do things in Manhattan is not how we do
No,
things. in
what
Manhattan.
you take the state of New Jersey, there's areas that are very similar to Manhattan. Let's say Hoboken, Union City.
Jersey City.
Jersey City.
metropolitan areas.
I don't think we have to go that far.
No,
We've
no.
got.
But I'm saying the
we've got
state- the
property-
state-
We've got properties
Property here in the
We got
back.
properties
Yeah.
right in
So
the
then-
back. We had a 20-foot wide lot with an application with a foundation on those lot lines. I couldn't figure out where the house was
Yeah.
until I looked about 4 times and realized the foundation is on the lines. So we don't have
Sometimes
to go, we don't
sometimes,
have to go that far afield.
sometimes when foundations butt each other, if you have that in this area, you have to underpin the foundation before you can begin work. Underpinning is done in 4-foot sections, 4-foot, 10-foot gap, 4-foot sections. You actually dig under your adjoining foundation and underpin it before you can begin construction.
Which, to clarify, is not part of the application, so
Okay.
that's a general statement.
Understood.
And just one more question for the planner, as far as, I mean, I know view is not something that we can really take into accommodation, account. But in your, as a professional planner, does that cause any kind of detriment to the adjoining property owners?
I mean, in my opinion, it's not much taller than the house to the left that we see, that green house there.
Well, if the, either side of that, if they, will that obstruct their, not that it's, that we can really take that into account, but in your planner position, what would your answer on that
Just
be?
note my objection to the question, the witness can answer.
What's that?
Understood, okay,
Bill knows what I'm
okay,
doing.
okay, yeah,
Thank you,
okay,
Bill.
understood,
He objected.
okay. Mhm.
I have no further questions.
Yeah.
Anybody have any
I'm always,
questions?
with the height, I'm always, you know, I'm on the other side of the table a lot of times. and-
All right, so that would be a
You know,
negative criteria.
Yeah.
In a planning,
Yeah.
if you were the planner for someone else, would that be a negative criteria to the neighbors?
I would look at the light, air, and open space that's
Mm.
happening around us in this instance. The rest of the lot, you know, it goes all the way back to the street. We have a lot of properties here that have multiple structures. We have this ADU there. There's a lot going on some of these properties. Here, we're talking about a single-family dwelling without two single-family dwellings happening right next to it. The other single-family houses are actually closer to the street behind us. So I think that there is adequate light, air, open space. It's not going to appear crammed in. So I think the negative criteria is satisfied in that regard. And it's not a height variance again.
Any other questions of the plan? No? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Public.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I have a question of our engineer.
Go ahead.
Listening.
Mr. Rushkey, did our new planner have an opportunity to review this application and write a report?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
No.
My confusion is,
Thank you. No further questions.
is this a continuation of an old application or is it a new
No,
C2
no,
variance?
consent to this being treated as a new application, strictly to review
Okay.
the C2 criteria, because we.
Yes, there's a couple comments that was referring to original.
No, you can't, no,
Why
should
not?
be
I can't.
disregarded.
Right, we're gonna disregard prior applications. We're gonna treat as new. I stipulated to that earlier this evening, and I apologize for any confusion that may have caused earlier this evening. Legalese is sometimes confusing and not the best way to discuss things.
Okay. All right, no further questions. I'll open this application to the public. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on this application? Yes, step forward.
Yeah, Kathy.
You can come up here and Bill will swear you in.
Sure. Come right up, please.
Kathy Hagerty.
Please raise your hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Spell your first name.
Kathy with a C, last name is Hegarty, Hegarty. And
I would
I'm,
note that I'm Haggerty.
Yeah, no.
And we're not related. I don't think unless we have. poor
Hagar,
spelling.
it's Hegarty. I'm at 60 and 62 West. I don't have a problem. I think it's great. We've looked at this brown boathouse for 3 decades. So I'm very happy that you bought this property and you're going to challenge and make it look great. My only concern was your dock and how far you're going to go out into the cove. Because where this house is located, this is the shortest distance from one dock to the opposite shoreline. So if this is all you're going to do,
Yes.
that's my question.
Yes,
Okay, so.
and it was done on, not knowing, because it was a Zoom meeting, but it was done under your recommendation, because you said that you were concerned about lighting and reflector. And that's why you're looking at a dock that's 19 feet 2 inches.
Yeah, that's perfect, because you confirm with the whole line.
Correct.
I mean, even our dock is a little out too far, but it's been there forever. So that's great news. So,
As you're looking
welcome.
at the exhibit, where's your house?
My house is, well, the greenhouse here, my property starts right here. And it goes over to the Rise property.
Okay.
We've been there for 38 years.
All right.
So we're happy to see the new addition. Thank you very much. That's a pro.
Okay, anyone else from the public wish to comment on this application?
I just
Seeing
got
none.
one question.
Go ahead, John.
Really a question for the architect and the engineer. When you look at the lakefront, and it's, you know, you can view this structure as, you know, almost 3 stories, the way it's looking, you know, view wise. And for the most part, the structures that are along the lakefront, they're really two stories. You know, you have, you know, like you can see in this picture here, we're going to boathouse to the right. What's the feasibility of actually taking that second story and taking the same square footage that you're doing it and just push it into the mountain a little bit further, and then actually eliminate the roof deck, but actually have a larger deck on that second story to the first story, if you know what I mean? Just.
I know exactly what you mean.
Okay.
Here's the only downside to that, right?
I shuffled you up there.
Sure. I mean, trust me, we tried to solve this a few different ways, right? The beauty of this is that, well, I should put it this way, there was an efficiency to working off the existing foundation and then working in a reasonable area with this back wall. What you're suggesting, Mr. Rushkey, I believe, is to say we take this much off of this house. Take that off. And then take this and slide it back. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Yes, you could probably do that. But now we have a bigger problem because like it would be harder to get the stairs to line up. We would require a bigger structure to do it. Or certainly, because right now this is the link. You can take the foyer off. But the link is the minimal link. It's only 8 feet wide. And it goes perpendicular to the rest of the house. So it allows us to get all of our circulation, all of our vertical circulation done in that sliver of the building with a minimal, you know, impact on that foundation. So
Yeah, again, it's a matter of the pros and cons, because this is, you know, this is the.
But so now,
Yeah, because this is a very unique structure, how close it is to the lake versus, there's a lot of houses like this that look like the 3 stories and have the pitch roof, but they're set back.
now here's the downside, because we looked at this, right? We looked at that. That's why we're trying to keep this as transparent as possible with the, you know, the railing system we used and no gable roof. If we were to do that, we'd be taking this geometry and coming back against this property line right here, and it would really impact this fellow and this house right here. So it would have a true negative effect on the closest neighbors, because now you're gonna be building that right in their face. We're down a little bit and we drop, right? So
Unfortunately, these are the realities of trying to build on a very undersized lot.
well, that's what you have to make choices, right? So rather than impact these people year round, all the time with a higher structure right in their, you know, right in their grill, you know, we stepped the building down.
That wasn't exactly my point, but I know what you're saying.
I'm giving you how we came up with that, right? We were able to get a smaller dwelling, a more efficient dwelling, without having a greater impact on the closest neighbors. If you follow what I'm saying.
Thank you, Steve.
No further questions? Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Could I apologize for this.
Go right ahead.
I would like to see the board, or potentially see the board, if I'm reading this properly, consider the variances for the dock. If I'm reading this properly, Mr. Bias's site plan is showing those H beams or I beams running out to the piles to be 8.5 feet apart. And the survey is showing the dock to be 13 feet wide. I suspect it's grown a little bit.
Okay.
And that could be simplified by if it's appropriate, if the variances are granted, then at least we can say that.
So what do you think the dock was, Bill? Do you have a?
Well, Mr. Bias, could you possibly confirm, you know, that I'm reading this properly and that I'm seeing this to be 8.5 feet between the two?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have 8.5 feet probably, and then we have a cantilever on one. The bottom line, it comes here. So this is taken off a Lakeland survey. We're coming off of this one here, we're coming off of this one here. Okay. So even if they're there, our framing could cantilever on opposite sides from the steel beams and still be sufficient for the load.
Understand, but there's no way on the knowing of how wide it was originally.
Can I confer with my client very quickly?
Sure.
But that's the only way we could get it is from their
Here's
survey.
the,
No, I understand. Okay, I have that.
So, Mr. Wright, that dock is
If I could
on,
just have a moment before you question the witness.
sure, go ahead.
I'm a poor multitasker.
Go ahead.
I apologize.
Well, this is Steve's drawing. I don't know if this is on the original survey, but it's overhung 16 inches on each side. So whether or not this bulkhead has a little bit of exposure, it was a piece of steel 16 inches on each. So whatever, so what is the width of the dock? Yeah, one bay.
Okay.
Very quickly, recalling the applicant, if we could shed some light.
Not yet to verify. If the measurement is 8.5 inches, which 8.5 feet. What we did was extend one bay. One bay is 16 inches. After the 16 inches and the two 2x10s are out there, then you get wrapped in a 2x12 so that your 1x6 decking is recessed. So it's not damaged if you have any type of boat movement on the edge. So we went 16 inches, two 2x10s, which is another 3 inches, one 2x12. So it's 16, it's 20 inches on each side. That's the overhang. And now what you see with the overhang, exactly where it's to be. And this you probably have a little bit off. You do have some concrete showing on that corner. And
Indicating the right corner.
the right corner does show some, it's not up against there completely, right? You show it.
But your survey shows it to be right in line with the concrete. You know, it's 13 feet, 8 feet, so that's four.
Yeah,
that's
I think our property
5
line is right here, though. You see our property line?
You see, the key, what I'm concerned with is if potentially the original, if philosophically now, because, you know, there's no way of probably proving this. Well, the original dock was replaced exactly the same size, and that original dock was originally 13 feet wide, or something a little bit wide. Then Mr. Haggerty's philosophy of, well, we just redid the deck and we didn't need zoning.
Right.
But if there's a chance that that dock grew at all, it would be appropriate to ask for the variances. That's what I'm asking.
By council, I did list 242-30 C2 as a requested variance for this evening, which is dockside yard, according to the code. So there is a.
And there was some acknowledgement there, but there are a few other variances that are appropriate that I just asked the board to, if the board's gonna look at this favorably, that they just consider that the appropriate variances be granted for that dock, because there's more than just the one. And then that way, we can just go to the building permit that we need after the fact, and then you can be perfectly in line with what it needs to be.
Mr. Donoghue, I think your point was though that did we use the existing steel pilings and the existing?
Well,
steel
that was another question that popped up, and I'm assuming you did, but I honestly don't know.
I mean, they didn't
And
replace
they
any of
said
that.
they did, and they
So
said
use
they
the
did.
existing, where they are on the survey is how we, was from the original application from the surveyor, so that's what we use.
That's accurate.
That
You know, it's just that, you know, I don't want to drive it into the ground.
Okay, thank you. So basically, that bill, I'm looking at the survey, that dock is on the property line, correct?
No, there's, let's see, I did.
I mean, the bulkhead is there.
The bulkhead has, if I may, to help guides, the bulkhead cuts back out towards the property line. So we're not at the exact edge of the bulkhead. There's a cut there, an L-shaped cut. If you're looking at
So I'm looking at the survey, and it's the dotted line for the survey, Bill. It shows you on the neighbor's deck, dock, whatever it is, it ends there. Is that the end of his property? Like, where does his property box out?
I figured it to be a foot set, based on the survey.
Yeah.
And my extension of the property line like I do, I figure we're 1 foot off that property.
Yes, if you review the survey, you could see the L cut that I'm describing, which brings it back to the property line. As a matter of fact, there are 2 L cuts. If you begin where it says River Sticks, you follow the deck straight line.
Yeah.
And then you see the word bulkhead, there's a cut, and then there's a second cut towards the.
I see that, but I see the dotted line of the surveyor, but that dotted line ends there, Bill. So I don't just, how does that survey box across? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does it
Well,
Does it continue out into the lake?
that's what, when I'm doing my reviews, that's what I do.
Okay.
By
And
council-
whether it's shown or not, I just carry it out.
Straight out, okay.
And by
very
council, the
good.
meets and bounds of the property carry out into the lake, into the water as well, to the, I believe you call it the median line.
All right, very good. We close it to the public, we're done here, so,
I have a, you know, I don't think that, first of all, I think that I've been out to the site and certainly anything would be an improvement over what is there right now. At least one of the neighbors we know would enjoy the improvements of the property itself. We certainly don't want to end up in the same result that we were in before, but, you know, I've made the recommendation twice before. As you can tell, many of the board members do have some reservations or at least lots of questions regarding this. I've recommended a work session in the past so we could talk about the things that we don't necessarily see as, or the things that may be problematic, you know, pros versus the cons. You may want to consider that. You may want to consider a work session so we can kind of air everything out, lay it out, and you know, come up with a plan that's satisfactory to everybody. Now, I'm not saying that you'll be unsuccessful tonight, but I certainly would hate to.
well, I think we gave that opportunity last time or one, you know, wherever we were at, yeah, so I don't think I mean, their thing is to go forward.
By council, we've been before the court, we've been before this board twice, Mr. Haggerty. Mr. Haggy and I have become very good friends over the last year plus, handling this matter together. And the concerns of the board have always been considered as given by the amendment. In closing, we presented pros and cons this evening. And it's put best by Mr. Flynn to put a bow on it. Our pros outweigh our cons, showing a great need for C2 variance here that I believe the board should grant, and I defer to the chairperson for the further proceedings.
Okay.
Amy, how many members? We got one online here watching.
Yes.
So we got 8.
You got two, you got
One,
two,
two, three, four, five,
no,
6,
no, never
7,
mind.
8.
We got it.
Yeah, we have 8. And we have 2 alternates
Okay,
also.
all right, we'll call 9 votes.
I'll call 9, so I'm gonna then.
If there's a motion. I'm waiting.
Okay.
Okay, I'll wait for a motion on this application. There's a motion?
You make a motion? Thank you. I'll make a motion not to approve,
Deny the
to
application.
deny the application.
I'll second it.
Okay, all the vote?
Well, okay, motion to deny. So if we are voting in the affirmative, that is voting to deny. Okay, just so there's no confusion. So a
Correct.
yes vote says,
You're voting to deny.
Right. You're voting to deny.
Okay, we'll call roll.
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Sharilla,
Oh, God. I don't know that much about this case, so I would sustain from this. I would
abstain?
Yeah, is that my best option, not knowing much about this case?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, the case was presented in its entirety tonight, just, so it's ruled on based upon what was
Based on what you heard
Tonight.
tonight.
So
Okay, then I would say yes.
I say yes to deny.
Deny.
Mr. Delarina,
No. I don't deny.
you don't deny, okay. Ms. Crop,
Yes.
Yes, deny.
Mr. Kusevich,
Yes, deny.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
No.
Mayor Colati,
No.
Chairman Ray.
Yes.
6 votes negative and 3 votes affirmative.
Okay, thank you.
Roll.
Yeah.
Roll. So who do I get the audio from?
I'd like to call a 5-minute recess.
And how long do you need, Amy?
It takes about, like tomorrow I'll get it and so about 12 hours, so Tuesday, what's today? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So Thursday afternoon?
Yeah.
All right, I'll send the request on Thursday.
And who prepares the transcript?
It's just.
So I get the audio.
We can get it up. Yeah.
I get the audio and then I hire the call recorder to transcribe. Okay?
Okay,
And leave the picture. The picture you keep, right, Bill?
yeah, well, people keep the.
Yeah.
One was the only.
Yeah, the rest is
The rest,
yours.
the rest were submitted with the application.
You gotta look at it that way.
Maybe it should have stayed, I'm not sure.
All right, Bill,
Well, if you're ever unsure.
you'll accept service?
Yeah, it's just something.
If you're ever not sure.
Even with your vote, Richard, you wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have made it. We asked him 3 times to change the plan, and he didn't do it. He didn't change the plan, we don't make it.
Oh, no.
And then truthfully, if you look at it from the backside, lakeside, he's over the height limit. You can't consider that, but he is. Because he added the 5 foot over the rail. That puts him over.
No, I didn't realize that.
Well, he's claiming no, because it's only an 8 foot section.
I don't know the history behind it. So I was reading all that stuff on this. There's another court. To use the compensation.
Well, that's where he messed up.
Very benefit.
He actually objected last time. He actually objected last
Bill, I
time. So
apologize
that's
for interrupting. We didn't put that on the record. I trust you. Will you more or less email tomorrow? Do you want to process survey? Then we can go through it. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bill.
No, we have people that go in there during the day and do damage.
Really?
You see their stuff on the walls and stuff. That's why we upgrade all the security in the
I
building.
think this is our next one. isn't it?
486.
I hope you're ready for this.
Well, this is the.
Bill, I'm sorry, more housekeeping. Who wants the original affidavit of publication? You or Amy?
Amy.
Okay.
Yeah, you put it right there.
Yeah, I'll grab her in the hall.
Okay.
What does he need here? What is this?
That's the one I told you about. The next one is the gas station. That's always been a gas station.
Mr. Rusky?
That's the only reason.
Did you get an email earlier from Bill regarding
The problem is.
last element of?
Yeah, I saw that. I had to reach out to Bill to find out what's about.
Right, so this was the last thing with zoning, everything else
Well,
is signed off.
that's why his lawyer should do his talk.
Yes.
Because I've been through this one with him twice too.
Put your signature on it. Given the number of years in the
Yes, I
past, if I testify to the FCC and tell you everything that's going on. Because when it comes down to it, you can't say it could be a marsh in the law.
Yes, yeah.
And there used to be some milkweed, some music.
And not only that, but the way he shifted it, the way he wanted to shift it, it had to the foundation.
The
That's
entire
not-
house is tied
I know that's not our job.
with Forex is sock over it, so that that would be a problem in the future. And the half of the garage, the other half is on the downflow side. Yeah, there's like drops between the two. So
The word that jumped out at me was the, instead of having the leaders and like the pipe coming down off the gutters connected directly into that black pipe, you actually have to drain this one, drain it. That's kind of an oddball
That's all right.
configuration.
I'd be willing to change it.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Yeah, because it's your story.
If you take the thing off, just stick the pipe on the straight end instead of the.
Yeah, it's down there.
But it was a little cattywampus, it's how it.
Just waiting to see if anybody else could do it.
And all the water that's in there.
And that would be my concern, is that all the water isn't going into it, they get a heavy enough rainfall, it kind of spills around.
Yeah, we've had it, but that doesn't happen. So, I don't know, you would have to get an engineer and come back to the survey.
I'll get that. That's the only thing that jumped out. It's kind of odd.
Now we've got 3 more.
I think. Bill is- But I think.
Oh,
Bill's
wait, one more.
thing is he wants to
Yeah,
speak.
that's the only thing I saw that was kind of strange. It's an oddball connection and it's more that, you know, is it gonna work, function properly with that? That's the only thing. I was wondering why I was cheated out of my. All right, no need, let me look at it.
I'm good.
Yeah, don't bother. Okay.
That's all.
What's the size recommendations?
If there is.
The size recommendations for parking spaces?
We're good with the standard. The 9 by 18.
Yeah, our ordinance is a bit old, you know, that's.
Alan was always a good one.
What's it?
Relentless. 9 by 18 is actually a state standard. Pacon has it 10 by 20.
My hands starting to hurt writing.
And they don't need a handicap.
No,
Well, he could really comply because he could comply
he's got
because
the room.
he's flush, you know what I'm saying? There's
Yeah,
no-
he's got plenty of
You
room.
may even want to consider that because of the size of the trucks.
I don't think he's gonna have,
No, he doesn't have that many trucks.
I don't think he's getting much foot traffic.
No, I know.
All right, who we missing?
Listen, Judy and.
Okay.
Judy's right there.
And we're missing.
I found Judy.
Yeah. There's any kind of proof of that.
I feel like you're my kids, right up in your son. You're right there.
No, we didn't lose you, Judy. We left where you were.
I don't blame you. Judy, it's a good choice tonight, Judy.
Yeah.
Good choice.
It's better that you word
There's a
it.
cost of going, it's all right, too. I understand. Bobby?
Are we still on? Are we
Oh,
recording?
there's. All right, yes, we're.
Wait for Bill.
Can we,
Recording?
Murray's out too.
Murray's
Oh,
out.
You heard me say where I
Can we
went?
put a coffee
Oh,
cup?
I didn't know. You might, the microphone.
I don't wanna be here that long. Let's push this one along.
Let me wait. Oh,
We're waiting for Marie.
now you want me. You need to bring celery. in.
Check and see if Brian's back.
Who's that?
What?
Check and see if
Celery or
Brian's back.
carrots.
Ryan?
No, then you really won't be able to.
Oh,
hear the
Ryan.
minutes.
Yeah, he's there. Ryan, you there?
Billy or-
Yeah, here.
I was gonna say, might have fell asleep.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Are you watching us?
Have a drink of
I'm
water.
watching you and I'm listening.
All right, good. All right, we're just waiting for one member to get back and then we'll get going here.
Reconvene.
Want me to go find her?
I just texted
Well, this is a D variance anyway, so
Oh, she
you.
can't.
Can't.
she can't participate in expansion.
Oh,
so-
Ryan's out on this one too.
Yeah, Ryan, this is a D variance, so.
Which one's next?
The Hopatcon Service Center?
Oh, yeah, this is a D variance.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So we don't need one anyway.
All right, I guess we can move forward to move the mayor's, so. Okay, the next application, oh, we lost our applicants. We need those, yeah.
We need them.
All right, the next application is Hopatcon Service Center. Anybody here from Hopatcon Service Center?
I'm just looking for the drinking fountain that is gone.
No, we don't want to drink that.
Yeah.
It's listed on the agenda, as Jeff Milkowski.
Yes, Jeff Bukowski, block 31604, lot 2, 486 River Styx Road.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. Daniel L. McCarthy III, of Hopatcon Council for Mr. Mikowski and Hopatcon Service Center LLC. Tonight, I have Mr. Mikowski with me. We'll have him sworn, if that's, we can do that.
Ready? Please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
And you tenant or the property owner or what's?
We're going to establish that Hopatcong Service Center is an LLC, correct?
Yes.
Limited liability company in the state of New Jersey?
Mhm.
And are you
So we are.
are you the managing member of that? It's a
Yes.
sole, single member LLC, correct?
Yes.
So you're fully familiar with the affairs of the LLC?
Yes.
Okay, we also have Mr. Stewart with us tonight. At the appropriate time, we could swear him, but I'd like to get some testimony first from Mr. Mikowski. So,
And the Paccon Service Center LLC is the owner?
yes,
Okay, so
I have a copy, of the record owner deed here if you need it.
that's fine.
So with that, Mr. Mikowski, by way of background, are you a mechanic?
Yes,
Okay, what type of mechanic are you?
I am a expert in diagnostics, repair, and pretty much can fix anything with an engine.
Okay, are you currently engaged in an automotive repair business?
Yes, I'm on 53 Lakeside, and I also have my mobile auto truck, which is a shop on wheels where I go to other repair shops, diagnose problematic vehicles, and also maintain a few owner operators of Anthony and Sons Bakery. I used to control the whole bakery, but I'm taking a step back from that to pursue this venture.
Okay, are you looking to relocate your business? Move your business?
Yes,
Okay.
486 River Sticks.
Okay, so that's the reason for the application tonight, is to be able to relocate your business?
Yes.
To 486 River Styx Road, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, what type of building is that 486 River Styx Road currently?
It's a steel constructed building with I-beam construction, very heavy duty, built in 1970.
Okay, can you describe, are there any accessories inside or structural components that would be consistent with a typical automotive garage?
Yes, tools, building a tire machine, wheel balancer. It also has a 12,000 pound lift on the left bay. And there also is a bay on the right side of the building to bring longer vehicles in. As a parallel instead of horizontal, or
okay,
this way instead of that way.
So historically, the building was used as a repair facility.
Yes, that's what we're hoping to establish. And to further council's inquiry, prior to tonight's meeting, did you do any research of any public records on this property?
Oh, yes, I've been inside of the zoning office quite a bit of times. I looked up all the properties history that I could find through Google and through the county.
So I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna ask to be marked A1, which I believe it says Appeal Board of Adjustment Borough of
Yes,
Hopatcong.
that was unfortunately, I don't have my reading glasses, but this was done by, I believe, Mr. Miller or whatever. His
Heller?
name is- Yeah, Heller, in 1970, that pretty much.
If I might please the board, my
Yes.
client doesn't have his reading glasses.
Okay.
Is it appropriate to read for him? Go ahead. There's a section in here, Mr. Mikowski, that says the property, although now non-conforming with two multifamily houses and an old service station, all of which would be demolished, is in the R1 zone and is within 1,000 feet of the temporary school. Is that what,
Yes.
remember reading that?
Yes, and they took everything down and pretty much they merged like 6 lots into one, and that's the current location that it is now to be. Well, in 1970 is state-of-the-art modern service center.
So we're offering this essentially to show that in April of 1970, there were two multifamily houses and a garage already existing on this property.
Yes, actually, it was the first garage in a Paxton, I believe, in 1920s.
From your,
Established.
from your research?
Yeah.
Okay, the second, that we're gonna mark that A1.
Sure,
You put
so
on-
after this, the buildings were all removed and replaced with the steel building that's there now?
Yes, then it became a Chevron.
And similarly, there's another application, again, just for the purpose of the board, my client can't read this, but we're gonna
I can
ask.
read it.
Okay, well, this is from the county of Sussex. It is a permission granted on behalf of Martin Heller to allow for entrances to and from the county road, I believe. So we can offer that as A2.
Okay.
Okay, next.
No, the Heller's the initial owner.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Making that
So
clear
we're
that everybody
offering
is on the
that
same
to
page.
show
Okay.
historical context. So keeping with historical context, I'm going to show you something that's says Chevron dealer sales record and profit planner. Can you tell me how you came upon this document? How did you find it?
I peeked up, there's an access door up there. And I peeked into it and I discovered, that's where pretty much the original owner. I haven't gone in there yet because of recent circumstances, but I was able to grab one. It has all the bookkeeping, everything from one place from like the 70s to the 80s. And like, it shows the potential of the place. Like the dude was making between 10 and 20,000 a month back in '83.
So is this document, which we're gonna offer to the board and give it up as A3,
Yeah, I got all of them.
is this consistent with
But yeah,
many
you guys
others?
can have one, yeah.
Okay, so we'll have this, and again, just so that we're clear, there's what appear to be handwritten entries from the dealer at the time. Or I should say they were the garage keeper.
I love history.
What do we call it?
A3, Chevron dealer sales record and profit planner with a handwritten entry dated June 1983 at the top.
To me, that's a lot better than the computer.
So are you gonna also park vehicles outside?
Yes.
Okay, are you going to do any modifications to the building, the lot, or the property?
No, just what I've recently done, give it a facelift and make it look presentable and more modern, you know, like scrape the old paint off, paint it, like what I've done.
So you've been in Opakon for a while?
I moved up here in 2006.
Okay, prior to your company's acquisition of the property, do you have any personal knowledge of what kind of operations or business was being conducted there?
When I moved,
Just immediately prior to your ownership?
yeah, it was a service repair center for the Board of Education where they fixed all the boards, vehicles, cars, and buses.
So did your company buy this property from the Board of Education?
Yes,
Okay, does the, to your knowledge, at the time you purchased it, was the board using the interior as a repair and maintenance facility?
yes,
Okay. Are you going to be doing any work on any type of cube vans inside, any
step vans.
step vans?
Step vans, stepping cubes, and then box trucks. But that's just, let's just say residuals. I have future plans for, I want to make this not only just a Opakon service center, but a place that, for instance, the community, it benefits them. Like you have a check engine light, I'll scan your check engine light. I want to pretty much make a big clientele like with the initial Chevron person did, because I'm seeing that the potential, especially over the bridge, there's no other repair centers, and to have somebody that is an expert such as I am.
So is it your testimony that
benefits.
you want to transition away from the cube vans to more general automotive
Yeah,
work?
I'll have like, for instance, my core group dozen owner operators from the bakery. But as far as like the flip step vans, I'm phasing that out. I have say about 10 of them. I want to draw it down to a scale, say maybe like 2 or 3, just in case somebody's in an accident, or, just to have one, or in case the mobile auto truck gets wrecked, I have backup.
Okay, what do you expect your hours of operation to be?
Least as possible.
Can you give us a time frame?
Honestly, say like 9 to 5, honestly. That's what I want to go back to.
Okay, and what type of waste that do you expect would be generated from your operations? Metal, cardboard?
Yeah, well, you buy brake calipers, alternators, this and that, you have cores on them, so they go back to where you bought them from. Anything that's like exhaust, scrap, this and that, you put in radiators, you put in a pile of scrap, bring that to the scrap yards because you get paid for it. And then as far as like this regular garbage, like the stuff from the house, like lunch debris, this and that, goes in the garbage can, and it's bring it out to the curb.
Is there sufficient space within the building to hold temporarily any materials that will be going to either be recycled, such as tires, metal, exhaust systems?
Yes, tires is actually something that I've been and making a huge deal out of, that I've been really staying away from because of due to all the laws and tire tax, this, that, you have to keep such strict record of it. And disposing of them, to be honest with you, is a real pain. So I want to do least as possible regarding that. Plus, when you store tires outside, like a lot of repair shops do, What's horrible about it is because it rains out, then you get the mosquitoes and the bugs, and of course, I'm the person that bumps into it and all the water falls
So you're
out.
not gonna be storing any tires outside, is that correct?
No, actually,
Okay.
there's a back structure that is meant for stuff like that, and it will be, it's dilapidated now. There's a one that will be back there that will be fully enclosed, so this way I don't have those problems.
So it's currently a dilapidated structure that you intend to rehabilitate? Is
Yeah,
that correct?
it's on the plan, yeah, it's a portable, like, fold out storage thing.
So what I'm trying to get at, my question is, your operations such as tires, rims, exhaust systems, none of this stuff will be visible to the neighbors?
No, I don't, no.
Okay,
I want it to look in from the front fascia, I want it to look clean, organized, proper. Honestly, the parking lot right now, it's because of winter, this and that, I want to get it patched up, seal coated. I want to get nice new fancy lines in there, even go as far as putting arrows on the entrance and exits.
okay. I think that's all I have, Mr. Mikowski, unless there's any small detail you believe we've overlooked. I think we can turn now to Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit down though, I'm not.
Okay, I have Fred Stewart. He's our engineer.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And you're a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey
Yes, and surveyor as well.
and surveyor, and you've testified many times before this board, as I recall.
Yes, I have.
Okay, Mr. Stewart, in connection with this application, as part of our public record submitted already, I believe you prepared 2 documents, a map of property and a parking stall layout. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I believe you have your parking stall layout up on your easel board
Yes.
presently. Can you explain for the benefit of the board what you're showing there?
Sure, this was to show the parking layout for the site. As you heard, that no other improvements are going to be completed on the site. Just some cleanup items, painting of the building, cleaning out the back area of all the brush and debris. And eventually, hopefully, seal coating and painting or striping the parking area as such. What we are proposing here are a total of 32 stalls, or although this one says 33, I did mislabel one of these stalls, which is in the back of the building. That's not really a parking stall. That was just a drafting error. And that's that structure, I believe that that Jeff was actually stating was going to be reconstructed. That's there now to store or house some of his parts throughout his servicing vehicles. So back to that, we have 32 stalls I am proposing on this layout. And basically we have here are the 3 bay stalls that are in the building itself. We do have a 1 handicap accessible stall. That's required by a state code. And then, of course, we have 9 by 18 stalls. We have 12 of those throughout the site for the smaller vehicles. Then we do have some 9 by 20 stalls, which are a total of 7, again, throughout the site. And then we have some larger stalls for the bigger trucks that he was just talking about that are 9 by 25. And we have 10 of those stalls, which are basically across the front of the site here. I will note this within your engineer's report. You did note that this one access aisle, which is this one right here, is at 21.5 feet approximately. We do intend to make that 24 feet to be in compliance with the access aisle width by reducing this stall length from 9 by 25 to 9 by 20. That will accommodate a 24-foot aisle once we do that. So that would be that first stall on the, I guess, bottom left. That's 9 by 25. Reducing that gives us the 24 feet that we need. Also, within your engineer's report, you say about a dumpster area, as you heard. A dumpster is really not necessary here. He's going to store the any other recyclable materials such as auto parts, I guess to say, within the building itself. And as far as trash goes, it's small office. Basically himself, maybe somebody else might stop in 1 or 2 times. So we'll have very little debris from lunch and basically coffee hours and things like that. So that will go out by the curb as it does now. As far as lighting, the existing light on the building is what he intends to use, and that's all. He's not going to have any parking lot lights. And as far as any further signage or striping, we do have fencing across the exits and entrances on the site. That's going to be intended to stay there. And we do not intend to show any arrows or directional arrows on this project as of yet.
Okay, I think you hit everything I have on my outline.
The condition where the parking stalls will be established, the pavement's good there and they can be delineated with striping.
Striping, yes.
Okay, the paving is good enough to accommodate that.
Yeah, yes, it is. I know he intends to seal coat it, as you just stated, and then perform the striping on top of that.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have for Mr. Stewart, unless the board has any questions.
We're good. Anybody have any questions, Fred?
No, I was just thinking, so any outside storage of tanks or oil recovery tanks or anything like that?
I'll just ask Mr. Mikowski, how do you, let's say you do somebody's oil change, what happens? Where are you gonna keep the fresh oil in the containers? And when the oil gets
I'm
removed from the
getting rid of
vehicle?
all those drums that were left over residual there, and I'm just using like what I always did in the past. So it's simple and easy to do it this way. Pretty much you buy a 55-gallon drum and you have one empty drum. So pretty much as you do oil changes, you take the oil comes out and goes in there. So by the time the waste oil is filled, the new oil's gone, and then pretty much you get the container back to the oil company, they give you a new one, and then you pay a guy to suck the waste oil out. And you gotta
That's
keep
stored
receipts.
inside?
Yeah, I do it
Okay.
inside. I want
That's
that
all.
outside.
Okay.
Wow, some of them mad at me like you're.
Okay.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Any environmental issues given this being 40, 50 years old as far as new regulations, service station in the past?
It's my understanding that this was the subject, Mr. Mikowski. you
Yeah, it was.
testify
Yeah,
of
in the
other-
nineties, there was a big gas spill over there. Over time, nature's taken its course, all the monitoring wells, they were all deemed cleaned and everything like that. I purposely went out of my way, played sneaky Pete and took soil samples, this and that. It turns out that that soil and like say the whole back area and the size is so fertile, it's like farmland. Like I grab it and I mean, worms come out. I'm gonna take some of them and throw it on my front yard.
But so in other words, you did your due diligence before buying the property to
Oh,
make sure
yeah,
it's
it turns out, I
environmentally
mean,
clean?
it's like think about the BP oil spill, it's, nobody
Yeah.
ever be able to swim there again. What do
Right.
you think, there were never underground earthquakes where
Okay.
oil went in there? It still cleans itself.
Yeah, that
got
was
it.
probably in the early 80s, they had a spill there.
I
Yeah,
thought it was the
And
nineties.
no, it was
It was
in the
in
early,
the
and they put all new, that's when they ran the water main up there, that, all those, because those houses
Is that
all
true? I
got
heard that
contaminated.
wind still
Yeah, I
happens.
missed the
That's
grotto
why
then.
that has public water over there.
Yes, that's exactly why it's there. All them houses, their wells got contaminated.
Thank
Yeah.
God I didn't
Yeah.
know at that time.
yeah.
I have another question.
It went all the way in.
No,
Regarding the water.
Any other questions of this
yeah,
topic?
we're good.
I would stick.
Yeah.
We're good.
All right, no more questions. The applicant, I'll open this application to the public. Does anyone from the public wish to comment on this application? Step forward, sir.
He's gonna raise your hand, please, sir. Do you swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And your name, sir?
Richard Romeo, Romeo, 12B Dean Road. So, it sounds like the board was aware that this property was at some point being monitored by the DEP for contamination. And over the years, so my wife purchased this property actually 2 years before we got married, so we've been there. She's 33, me 31, and married up. And we received notices from the DEP periodically. We have not received one in quite some time, and I've searched to try to find those, warning us, not that there was an issue, but that there was contamination, but not up to the, what the word is, the levels, that were.
Remediation.
Yeah, that caused health hazards. But I did find this, which I'd be happy to give this. I'm sorry I didn't make more copies, but I gave some to my neighbors. There are 3 copies if you want to pass them out. It's a remedial action progress report. Groundwater analytical map dated July 21 of 2009, in which they had monitoring wells. And there were, if you read this, I'm not a geologist, I'm not an engineer, but it does indicate presence of benzene, toluene, methyl something or other, methyl MTBE, which I believe is some sort of petroleum additive. And again, I don't know that this property here at 486 River Styx
I don't know what the current condition is. I know that there was a problem. I'd like to ask this board to have the groundwater tested again, because if they're going to do this and it's going to be a use where there is, again, petroleum products being used and stored on the property, I'm concerned about that. Our well was not closed. We're allowed to use our well. We have well water, sir. And at our residence, so we actually rent the house next door out, and that's also on a well. So the town did not hook us up to town water whenever that was done many years ago. But again, this is a concern of mine and my neighbors. Again,
I mean, the only thing I could say is that those tanks it leaked from the tanks that were there. It's not, I mean, anything he's doing now is really not, those were the underground storage tanks. That's what leaked there. The gas tanks, they were metal back then. They got a hole and so if they didn't hook you up, I mean, I can only assume that your well it didn't hit your well.
Well, they did alert us that there were contaminants found, but not at the level that required us to get town water that we could still use.
I could say that, you know, the underground storage tanks are regulated by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. It's not regulated on a local level. You know, they oversee the remedial efforts, and there's a whole process that they have to go through. You can look at this map and it actually shows the only contamination was actually found in one well, monitoring well 6, where benzene was detected at 8.1, where the standard was 1. And I can just say that benzene biodegrades very quickly. It's one of those compounds that versus the MTBE doesn't, but didn't really have that problem. So and actually they actually had a well within the municipal right of way, and they had an agreement with the town to access that. And it's my understanding that they did get a no further action on this property because the groundwater did attenuate below regulatory standards, and they actually have to sample multiple times to demonstrate that in fact those levels have stabilized and addressed. So I believe the soil and groundwater contamination on the site has been remediated to the satisfaction of the DEP.
So can we get that in writing from the DEP? I mean, I'm not saying that this is the most
There's gotta
recent.
be public record of it someplace.
Well,
John, is there public record that the tanks were removed?
Yeah.
You
There's
can
gotta
actually
be
go
some
to
public
the DEP
record of it.
website and you can actually look, there's a way of actually going on their website, you know, putting up, looking for regulated underground storage tank, and you gotta go through their whole process, but you can find out exactly the status of it.
is that something I need to do as a homeowner, or is that
Yeah.
something the applicant can do? I mean, why can't?
I mean, you could do it this way. You have it for your own records. I mean, it's-
Well, I just want to make sure that, you know, if you're going to approve a variance that's going back to a use that caused problems in the first place, that we don't go
I
back
don't
there
think that
again.
the use didn't cause the problem. It's the tank. He's not going back to pumping gas. He's not gonna put gas tanks in the ground again.
Right, but he's going to have storage facilities on the property, right?
Well, the problem with this was the gas tank.
The gas tanks leak,
That's not what's before us at all.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
mean, I
so,
would find out for yourself, so you have it.
so this board won't do that as part of the application process?
I mean, as far as John knows, he's our borough engineer, that the
Yeah,
site
I
is.
think it would be inappropriate, I think for the land use board to oversee, you know, go step beyond its bounds and start regulating DEP's regulations.
Not asking you to regulate, I'm just asking you as a governing body that's about to approve a variance to get the documentation from the state, rather than having me as the homeowner do it, that's all. I'm not asking you to
I
supersede.
don't think it would have any impact on the board's decision, because there were tanks there that, or tanks that leaked, and what's being proposed has nothing to do with that, really.
Yeah, my recommendation, even if the remediation was not complete and there was still soil contamination there, the fact that it's oversight by the DEP to make sure that contamination is, they looked at the receptors being, you know, if there's streams or if there's wells or what other means that they go on, and they'll regulate that. And so it's a highly regulated process to contain the contamination and make sure it's not spreading beyond, you know, the plume that was established and it was naturally attenuated. So, you know, even if there was still groundwater contamination, you know, would my recommendation was not to say you can't continue to utilize that piece of property. Property, it's regulated.
Well, my only point is, again, let's get the record from the DEP, and if there's going to be a use that has that, maybe you want to put some safeguards in, I don't know. That's,
But if-
you know.
but if
Well,
we find-
we're putting safeguards in right now if the board approves this, because there will be no tanks.
No outside storage
gonna
of
be no
oil,
outside
nothing.
No outside
storage,
storage, no
All-
ground
Everything's
storage.
kept inside.
All right, well, I made my point for the record. You'll do what you think is appropriate. The place also does not really look well. Again, I want you to be a successful business, I really do. It really is, it's disgraceful the way it looks now, trash, disabled vehicles with flat tires, leaves all throughout stacked high and by the fences. So I made my point, you'll do what it is you think is appropriate. But again, I stated my concern. Council didn't even raise this and talked about the 1990s, and I had a document that said they were monitoring in 2009. So to me, it's just troubling, and I'd like to get the final word from the DEP. And I'm not suggesting that this board usurp the power of the DEP. I just want it in the record. Here it is, it's done, it was finished on X date, and that's it, so.
Does the applicant have any information through his research that he could share that satisfies his
Yes,
concern?
Chevron has to maintain any contamination or any residual contamination of that property until the DEP deems it completely clean. All the monitoring wells have been deemed clean, except for the one that is labeled number 6 over there. It's on like that threshold, but it also turns out that that monitoring well is in the middle of the septic leach field. Also, the ground and everything regarding the monitoring wells, everything is tested bi-yearly, and it's the responsibility of Chevron indefinitely until the DEP says the place is as clean as farmland. I actually have, when I bought it, that's when it was, and I have a letter saying that there's nothing to be really concerned about here. It's just residual, and I have, like, that's back from 2009, correct?
Well, can you share any of your?
I have, like, if you want me real quick, I could grab my file, just.
You don't have to grab it. You have a copy of it though.
Yeah,
correct?
everything says
Okay,
approved,
that's all.
abandoned,
That's
clean.
what your neighbor's asking for.
Yeah, maybe if you
So
could
he-
just get a copy of that, give it to Bill Donegan, and you can come in
Right.
when you got a chance
Yeah.
and get it.
We can accommodate it.
Okay.
And just,
Your
just-
dad's the one that came with the forklift, you know, into the Delta station?
Okay, so Mr. McCoskey, there's one question I did not ask, just so that the record is clear. It's, you have no intention or plans to pump or sell gasoline at this facility, correct?
No.
Okay, just want to make that part of the record, okay?
So bad.
Anyone else from the public wish to comment? Yes, sir.
Keith Breckley, 443 River Six Road.
Raise your right hand.
Yes.
You swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And your full name again, sir?
Peter, Frechtling.
Okay.
Okay, and my question is to actually comment is to possibly be a experienced owner of repair shops and all that. You also intend to have proper disposal of ethylene glycol and other antifreeze.
What?
Antifreeze.
Yeah,
Okay.
antifreeze goes into a separate 55-gallon drum.
Fabulous.
But I try to like recycle it all the time. Like, for instance, if there's like an old truck with 700,000 miles on it, needs a gallon of I'm not gonna put new antifreeze, I'll just take the old stuff, put it in that one, top it off.
Okay, that's all I was.
Hey, any other public for this application? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Motion for what?
To approve it.
You too, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we have motion second.
Mr. Bongiovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Shirley?
Yes.
Mr. Dellarina?
Yes.
Ms. Croft?
Yes.
Mr. Kusevich?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Chairman Ray?
Yes. Good luck.
We would
Good luck,
like,
Joe.
one last request, we would like to waive memorialization. So Mr. McCoskey can get permits.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Bongiovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Shirley?
Yes.
Mr. Dellarina? Ms. Croft?
Yes.
Mr. Kusevich?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Chairman Ray?
Yes.
I'll
Good luck.
conclude on a light note. I couldn't find a way, legally speaking, to get this to be part of the record, so it won't, but this is from my mother's collection, a receipt from 1978 for West Shore Chevron for her new Bronco. And back then, it cost $27 to have your oil changed and to have the rear oil changed. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
All handwritten. Good luck. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, let me see what else we have here. We have one more? Okay, we have one more new application, and it is Brian Goldman, 412 Salter Place, Westfield, New Jersey. The property location is 105 Maxon Drive.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stephanakis.
Hi,
I'm
how
a
are you?
sister here on his
Sister?
behalf.
Is that all right, Bill? I mean, I don't know.
He signed the thing.
Okay, an
Yes.
authorization?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear
Sure.
the testimony about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your name again, please?
Sarah, with an H.
S-A-R-A-H?
Yes, Stephanakis. I'll spell it Stephanakis. Okay, try not to be intimidated. This was a long session, hopefully with many less questions. So we are seeking a variance, two variances for the existing non-conforming lot to increase the coverage. So the allowable is 35%, the existing is 58%. And we want to go to 61.4%. We're also seeking a variance because what we're building is within 50 feet of the lake, but the house is actually within 50 feet of the lake, so everything is within 50 feet of the lake. So my brother bought this house during COVID, like many people, as a place for our family to come together. It's a beautiful house. We have varying generations who meet there. I have brothers across the country, my parents who are in their upper 70s, and then my son is actually the youngest, he is 6. And while we have experienced the house for many years, the back end of the house is very hard for everyone to access the lake. The stairs are really quite steep. My son, who goes down by the lake on the dock, is a non-swimmer, and so you have to be right by him. And unfortunately, my father had a stroke, and he can't even access down by the dock. So we are trying to build a patio, honestly, that comes out from the back of the house, and it just has like a few steps. That is easy to access, and then the patio would have a retaining wall on the left side and then a wall around it. So we're just really trying to increase the amount of space that we can use outside. The patio is like 388 square feet on the left. On the right side is like non-use. I don't know if you've been to the property. It's like rock and gravel and dirt. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're trying to do. I can answer any questions. Maybe if you have questions, I can answer them. It's not as complicated as the other two.
I was at the site today, took a look, and looks like you're doing a very nice job, or your brother's doing a very nice job over there. There is a lot of paving,
Yes,
you know. Have you considered pervious paver, the pervious pavers for the additional patio that you want to build there?
yeah, so yeah, on the plan, there's the part that says how the pavers will be, and yes, they're pervious, and the retaining wall will have holes for the water to go through. I think they're considering either a paver or bluestone, but something, yes, that the water can seep through.
So the increase in the impervious coverage is going up, why? Because of the retaining wall, or?
I'm not actually clear, and initially we didn't think we needed to seek the variance, but just going back and forth between the town, it seems like, because even though we were using pervious stone, that we were increasing the lot coverage.
Yeah.
So we're here.
Okay, all right. I mean, the proximity to the lake runoff, you know, is always a concern. right?
Of course, we understand. The house does look good though, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Any other questions of the applicant? John, you go with this, right? I mean, it was. Okay, I'll open this application to the public. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close it to public and bring it back to the board and wait for a motion.
I'll make a motion as long as, they use pervious material for the paver patio.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Define pervious, like, give me an example of pervious material.
They make paving stones that are pervious that the water can actually drain through, so it doesn't run off per se.
Okay.
So that would be helpful, right? That would help reduce some of the water drainage into the lake itself.
So it's like bluestone or pervious paver?
No.
No.
Go to the supplier, wherever you're getting it from, tell
Okay.
them that's what you're looking for, and they'll help you out.
Okay.
It looks just like the regular pavers.
Okay.
They're just constructed a little different.
I think it'll clog up in a few years.
We're just trying to do the best we But it can. feels good.
Yeah, it feels good right now, so.
It sounds good.
It sounds good. I know it's late. I tried to be quick.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Bongiovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Shirillo?
Yes.
Ms. Croft?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzovich?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Galati?
Yes.
Chairman Ray?
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, good
Thank
luck.
you.
Yep. Have fun.
Appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Okay, where's my agenda?
That's the
Work
work
session.
session.
All right, the last item on the agenda is a work session, JLM Properties, Block 4306, Lot 2, 16 Tufts Trail. I don't think we have to swear him in, but
No, we don't. It's work session, so this is informally, it's a free exchange between the applicant and the board members, just bounce ideas back and forth. It's not binding on anybody.
Okay.
My name is Joe Mancino. I'm managing member of JLM Properties. And we're here, thought this would be a good starting point possibly to get some thoughts on direction for development on the property. It's 16 Tufts Trail. We closed on the property in January of this year. And, we're in the process of trying to clean up the property a little bit. It has three buildings on it right now, three structures on it right now, and a garage in the back that I guess through the years of my predecessors and then different people that own the property have let the buildings themselves come into disrepair to the point where they're really not salvageable to try and reuse them, or they've gotten to the point where you really even couldn't use the foundations at this point. So that's kind of our quandary here is, I think what I'm asking the board is just if you would entertain possibly the idea of, since these structures, the setbacks are wrong. One of the properties is actually encroaching on a paper road. They're all paper roads at this point, but one of the paper roads, it's encroaching on that. If there was a way to possibly take a credit for the density that those buildings are on and be able to convert that to, well, our first thought was to be able to convert that into three townhomes, one structure, three townhomes that would be situated on the property that would fit the footprints of the existing structures that are there.
So you're looking to just consolidate it, make one building instead of three.
Yes.
I'm a little familiar
Well,
with this
yeah.
property and the way the property was sold, because this used to be a township owned property.
Right.
And the way it was sold was to be existing non-conforming. So in other words, you could build on that property the exact same thing that was there without going for a variance.
God, you probably remember this. Remember it was like the three things on.
No, I think you may still have to go for a variance.
Yeah.
But you have to, it was always identified that there was three existing
Right.
structures there. And that was right.
So I think you're just looking to see if it's okay to build three in one building as opposed to three separate buildings.
Correct.
I don't really see a problem with that. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have to go for
You have to come in for
variances.
variance
and-
approval and you have to bring in a
Yeah.
plan.
Because I think, I remember the original thing was that this property was sold with the condition that you wouldn't need any variances if you rebuilt those structures exactly where they were,
Yeah,
the
in the
same
same-
size.
in the
So,
same
so,
footage,
but
yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
I don't think it's, listen, we had somebody else come here for this thing and wanted to build what? How many was it? 20
Yeah,
I mean, so
I'm not going down that.
you're
road.
doing the right
Yeah,
thing, you
yeah,
know?
I'm not going down that
Now,
road.
as far as, septic, you put septic system in there?
Yeah,
Well, I know the sewer's about 100
right,
yards down the
our-
Well,
road.
they could do it the way.
yeah.
Yeah, you could, but it's not, I think it's.
I think it's so
250
far,
feet down the road.
it's so far down on Vassar
Mhm.
that it would, and I think we have to bypass a culvert or an underground stream by Vassar there. It's not really practical.
Okay.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't see a problem with
You got
doing what
plenty
you
of
like to
land
do.
for
I mean,
septic.
yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
a
we'll
much,
keep in
much better
mind.
work session than we had the last time with this property, for sure.
I would try to keep the design a little closer to the neighborhood than try to make it look like something from the city, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Keep it
Yeah.
more country looking than.
Yeah, I think one of the uniqueness of the property is that that's what it's about, is having that open area space deck.
Yeah, you're at the end of the line, and there's nothing.
That's a
you-
beautiful
you
piece of
just
property.
walk by-
You can walk
Yeah.
into the
That
woods
yeah,
there.
that
yeah.
used to be in a state at
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah,
And
that's
they
kind of
had
why.
fountains there and there's still remnants. If you go up there and walk around, there's still remnants of the fountains and everything, so.
Yeah, it was almost like a Tuscan Villa
Yeah.
Yeah.
vibe
Well,
to
one
it.
guy owned the whole property and he had the 3 houses for his kids.
Oh, is that how it went?
And then the
Oh,
garage
I tried to figure
was
that
for all
out.
his
So we're
cars,
talking a max of 3 families up top.
That's it, one building with 3 units.
3 units. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I personally don't have a problem with that. Anybody else have any questions or?
Somebody
No?
saying 4,
Who's saying 4?
Yeah.
his wife.
No, 3, no.
Or you can go 2, that's even 2.
Yeah. It goes there.
Well,
it's even-
Are they gonna have garages then? Or you
Yeah,
can do one
it
garage
would,
and
it
then the
would
3
be,
units?
not stacked, but 3 separate, garage on ground level grade, build up. I don't know, but I did a little sketch of, for everybody, but
You can, we'll take a look at it. I mean, you're saying so far is all good. Yeah, so it's 20 by 39, so 3 of them attached, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
yes, yeah. And, I think the one thing I did want to mention, so when you're coming off of Vassar onto Tufts, they've paved a little bit of it, so when you're looking at we're talking about undeveloped paved roads, on paper roads at this point. So, if we were willing to, pave those roads, bring it up to a standard that would be acceptable to the township and maintain those
I think
roads.
that's something you gotta go.
Yeah, I think that's gonna
I'm
be.
not sure if you want to spend.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
money
I
to
think you
do
better
it.
just.
That's something
It
you
might
gotta
be
talk
better
to
if
the
you just do a
engineer
driveway.
and,
That's-
absolutely.
that's-
And,
Don't spend a lot of
inspector.
money,
But if you want to make, it, comply with the residential site improvement.
You don't want to do that.
Okay.
It's
Keep it
a-
as simple as you can.
But even though it's
Keep it looking
a
for-
Tufts Trail,
Right.
Tufts Trail's a town road.
I mean, I think
No, not
everybody on
what
the
this
board
is.
is. Yeah, it's like-
This is at the
Okay,
end.
just want to get an idea.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right,
Okay.
all right. Appreciate the time.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, guys.
Hey, it's not great. Have a good night.
Right, but we took this in 2000.
Okay,
We drove by and the guy that was living there was like,
Next thing on the agenda, the meeting is open to the public. Does anybody from the public have any comments or questions of the board? Seeing none? I'll close it to the public. Bring it back to the board. And Judy, you're up. Motion to,
Motion to adjourn.
all right, we're done. Very good.
I'll make it easy.
I didn't-
Thank you, everybody. Nice job.
You can have
Good
that.
night.
Night.